Welcome to the Equinety Podcast, where horse owners just like you share their incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Whether you're searching for something to give your performance horse better focus, faster recovery, and more stamina, or in the extreme case where all hope seems lost, give your horse what it needs to help heal at a cellular level, you'll find it here. So jump in on today's episode to hear how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Now, welcome your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're going to swing up into Falling Waters, West Virginia, and we've got an avid trail rider with Belgian draft horse and an Overlander draft. Butch Myers, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Thank you for asking me to be on here. I really appreciate it.
Well, absolutely. We appreciate you being on, and in our conversations, I hear that you seldom do reviews for products.
That's correct. Yeah, I usually don't bother with expressing my opinion about things usually,
Well, and that's, when you've been around for a while and probably have seen a lot of things out on the market and some don't meet to your standards, sometimes it's hard to put reviews out there. Or I guess there'd be an opportunity to do a lot of negative reviews, but who wants to be in that world, right?
Yeah. In the world of supplements, I think there's, you can't really say that any one of them doesn't do, it might do something for somebody else, but if it doesn't do it for me, then I'm just a one-time buyer. But your product really has, I have definite proof that it's helped my horses and, with a couple different issues in both the Overlander and the Belgian that I warranted that it was, definitely worth me saying something about it to you also that I'm very pleased with what it's done so far.
Sure. So let's first talk about the 27-year-old Belgian draft horse by Barney. Barney is his name?
Yeah, Barney. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so tell us what was going on with him and then how you found the Equinety and what's happened since you've been using the Equinety. But let's start first with things that what have you been using him for, some of the issues that he may have been having or was having, and then go from there.
Sure. Well, Barney's 27 here in 2019. Bought him when he was 9 going on 10 and used him for trail horses. He was actually a pulling horse out in the Midwest. And I bought him from a guy that bought him from somebody else or whatever. But he came through this past winter there in January of this year, and he got really skinny. And a draft horse, when they get skinny, they don't look good. Their hip bones stick out and they get ribby and everything. And that's what he was doing. And I upped his feed substantially and that didn't seem to really help much at all. And I actually saw your advertisement on Facebook and it was more or less geared towards like thin soled horses. And, but it did say something in there, I think about, maybe a horse that was unusually thin that it would help out. So I called your business and talked to a gentleman. He explained to me the theory behind your product. And I thought, well, it's worthwhile going ahead and buying a tub of it and just see how it does, if I notice any difference or not. And so we started Barney on it, and actually him and the other horse that we'll talk about. But it did. My wife noticed it took about 30 days or so. I figured I had enough. With the bigger jar, you have 100 doses in there. So yes. I figured that'd give me 50 doses for each horse. So I figured in 50 days, giving them 1 scoop a day, I'd see if I'd notice anything. And probably in around the 30-day to 40-day area there, you could notice that Barney was starting to muscle up more through the chest and across his ribs. He was getting a little bit more meat on him. And demeanor, like we talked about, was changing. He was getting a little bit more peppy, like he shaved off a few years. But one other thing that I just noticed here just a couple weeks ago here was that he always had this he's had a shoe boil on his right elbow for over a year. And I've tried antibiotics and different other things, trying to get rid of that. I had the vet look at it and whatnot, and it just never truly ever went away. So, but I noticed grooming him here the other day that it's totally gone. And the only thing that I've done that has been use your product. And I think that I can attribute that shoe bowl being totally gone with, the use of your product.
Sure.
So that I was kind of like, that was like, wasn't the real thing I was using it for on Barney. Mainly one, but he has muscled up and he looks really good, and his demeanor has gotten extremely good here since I've been using your product, and I've only used 1 scoop a day. So
yeah. Now let me ask you this, because you've had this horse for a while, so his body composition, his demeanor, and do a lot of trail riding. But as you mentioned, coming out of this winter, tell us about kind of his feeding program with what he gets, and then although this winter he was just thin, there's something else.
Yeah, well, we feed a high-fat, low-carb, low-sugar feed. It's got about 22% fat, plus sometimes I'll add oil to it also, vegetable oil. He gets fed twice a day. Before I upped his feed, I was giving him 2 pounds in the morning. He was getting 1 pound in the morning and 2 pounds in the evening. We use second cutting orchard grass or second cutting brome grass hay. And what I ended up doing was upping his feed to 2 pounds in the morning and 4 pounds in the evening. And even at that, he still wasn't gaining any weight. I also started giving him some alfalfa hay, and didn't really see a big notice in it. It was really starting to worry me because I want to keep him around as long as I can.
Sure.
27 years old for a draft horse is really very good, because their average lifespan is about 18 years. So
wow.
27 is good.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people that's had them for 30, and that's good. But, I just kind of like to keep him around and keep him healthy if I can. And I was really worried about coming into this winter if I couldn't get some weight on him and get him set up right. So,
right.
giving your, I attribute it really to because the only change I've made is supplementing him with your product. So I have to give credit where credit's due. And
yeah, and well, I appreciate that. It's the Equinety product, and those that are tuning in for the first time, and we often get this question: will Equinety help put weight on my horse? Well, it can, but it's also, we need to go back to the nutritional aspect of it, because that's so important. And in your situation, you know this horse well, you've been feeding him what you've been feeding him, but for whatever reason, he was losing weight. And so you upped the feed, that wasn't helping. And so a lot of times what we find is adding the Equinety product, which is 100% pure amino acids, it's giving the body what it needs to help heal itself from the inside out. So there was something going on in there, or a lack of something going on. And you had mentioned that you were just giving 1 scoop a day. So kind of the science behind that is the amino acids that are in the Equinety product are specifically formulated to stimulate the pituitary gland, which is the master gland in the body. And that's what releases the hormones, which then the body sends those hormones to the problem areas. And in this case, not only did it help with filling out, building muscle, wasn't so ribby, but then the shoe boil, which, as you mentioned, you weren't even thinking of that or even purchasing the product for that ordeal. And now that's completely gone, which is pretty awesome. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so we tell people all the time that whatever specific issue you're trying to solve, there's so many other benefits, because we're giving the horse what it needs to help heal itself from the inside out. So in addition to all of those benefits, you've noticed the horse is happier, more pep in his step, feeling good, demeanor's changed. So have you seen him like this in a while? I mean, you kind of mentioned that
no, I actually noticed that he was kind of, I don't know if depressed is the correct word for it or not, but I did notice that he was showing his age,
Sure.
I mean, besides his getting gray on his face and stuff, which is normal, but, he just wasn't getting around like he should. He wasn't lame or anything like that, but he just didn't look, he just looked tired more so than anything, I guess.
Yeah.
And, we did notice that too, because like I said, I was really worried about him because, I don't want to lose him before I have to. And but yeah, it's really helped him out. It really has, because that's the only thing that I've done different since all this has gone on is just supplementing with your products. So,
right. Yeah.
Like I said, I have to.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it really is. I tell you, there's so many supplements on the market today, and it's so confusing because you just don't really know, and you can spend a lot of money and not see any change at all. So I always like to try something new. If it looks like I can get a benefit out of it, we'll try it. But in most cases, it doesn't really do what they claim it's going to do. So I just, I'm end up being a one-time buyer. But
right.
Your product really, my horses, it's helped.
Yeah.
And I can see the difference, and whenever you can see the difference, that's a good thing.
No, absolutely. Now, I didn't ask you this question before, or what was your thought when you opened up that tub and saw that little tiny scoop for your big old draft horse?
Yeah, I didn't know. It's one of them things, though. But over the years, you kind of learn that sometimes it doesn't take as much of a good product. If it's what they say it is, it shouldn't take a whole bunch of it. So there's times whenever you get these supplements in these 50-pound bags or whatever, and they want you to feed 2 or 3 pounds. You kind of got to wonder just how diluted they really are. Where if the product was really concentrated, like I believe yours is,
mm-hmm.
you don't need to have as much of it. And it goes further.
Yeah,
which
that's
is a
right.
Good thing. So
yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah, so for those tuning in and have never tried the product, the Equinety product, it's, again, 100% pure amino acids. There's no fillers, no sugars, no starches. There's no loading dose, and a serving size is 5.2 grams, which is a tiny little scoop, not even a tablespoon when you measure it out. And what's interesting, whether it's a draft horse or a mini pony, they all get the same dose because, again, this is targeting the pituitary gland, which is roughly the same size in mammals, about the size of a pea. So... and that pituitary really doesn't grow. It's just kind of that size. It's interesting. So now let's talk about your other horse, the 11-year-old Oberlander. Tell us about this one and things that you were dealing with prior to using the Equinety.
Oh, yes. Actually, he belongs to a friend of ours. We keep him at our place. And, she got him back in March of this year. We noticed that he was really ouchy, like he's walking across. We have a pea gravel around our barn area that we keep about 3 to 4 inches thick. And noticed that he would just tiptoe across that until he got out into the field. And the lady that had him beforehand, she would trim his hooves with an electric grinder, and I think she got a little bit overzealous and kind of took too much soul out of him. And he was extremely short, and very thin-soled. So whenever I saw your ad, besides the possible weight gain on my Belgian, I thought, well, heck, we'll give it to the Overlander too and see if that doesn't help him out with his thin soles. And like I said, in about the same time frame that the Belgian, we started seeing changes in the Belgian. We actually saw changes in him too. He's walking out across the gravel now, like he doesn't mind it at all. I mean, he was very noticeably tender-footed. He would really tiptoe across it. You could just tell he didn't want to walk across that. He would try to take a shortcut through it, try to get to the grass and stuff like that as quick as he could. But he just walks right out like nothing. Nothing's bothering him. So
that's great.
Like I said, in about the same time frame, I'd say about both him and Barney, I'd say about 30 days, about 30 doses.
Sure.
And we definitely saw big changes. And like I said, this was all noticeable changes. It wasn't something that you had to have a vet look at them and tell you that this is, what it is. You can actually see that the horses were benefiting.
Right.
And that's the only change that we made was just your supplements. So.
Yeah. Well, and this is a really neat thing with the Equinety product is it actually starts working in 24 hours. It triggers that pituitary to release the hormones in 24 hours. So now it's really just a matter of how much time it takes for you to start seeing things. And when it comes to horses that have maybe a lot of stress, anxiety, or is a bit spooky, we've heard lots of feedback. They've noticed demeanor changes in as little as 3 days. But when it gets to an overall thing, whether it be helping to fill out, demeanor, they're happier, top line, all these types of things, even with hooves and the ouchiness, as you were describing, I would say the vast, vast majority of people do notice changes in 30 days or less. And it's good from the company's perspective. It's great for the owner's perspective because, this product works relatively quickly. And when it comes to, I'll throw this in there as well, because we get a lot of questions of, hey, I'm using, these other supplements or I'm using some other medications. Will the Equinety product interfere in any way, shape, or form. So the quick answer is no, it won't, because again, it's 100% pure amino acids, which are the building blocks protein. But we always encourage people to not change anything that you're doing as far as giving your horse currently, and just add the Equinety product to it. And it just in, like you were describing, Butch, this was the only thing that you changed. And so you can attribute it to the Equinety product, not taking away from the great care and trimming and things that you're doing, because, you're also a barefoot trimmer. So just add the Equinety product to whatever you're doing. And then over the next couple weeks to 30 days, you should definitely start noticing enough of a change, whether at that point you can decide whether you want to maybe reduce some of the other stuff or take it away altogether. But, we're really blessed in that fact that we've got a product that helps in so many ways. And it's great to hear that you've got both of your guys feeling good, and you've just started 3 more just very recently. So it hadn't been enough time yet to notice changes on theirs. But so you got an 11-year-old, a halflinger, and a 30-year-old quarter horse with cracked hooves or cracked heels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So probably the stronger, faster growing hooves is one of the most common things that we hear. And sometimes, when we're running ads on Facebook, we have before and afters of weight gain. And so people think that this is a weight gain product, but then we have before and afters of heels or hooves rather. So then people think it's just a hoof product. But as you've kind of described, it's helping in so many different ways, even with getting rid of that shoe boil, which who knew?
Really. Really, if you understand, I always tell people, well, I've only had a horse for 18 years. I know people that have had them all their lives. I just used to, whenever we first got our horses, so I'm 65 this year. So I got mine when I was 47. So, but we've talked to people that have been around horses their whole life, and they don't really understand anatomy, what the organs are supposed to do and how they work and how things affect everything. And I always tell them, you need to read a little bit more, and because there's so much research and things in horses that are coming to light now that they didn't know maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
And, the thing about whenever I called into your business and I asked the guy about how it works, and he explained how it triggered the pituitary gland, I understood right away how we were working, how it was supposed to work. So,
right.
Basically it's going to repair whatever's wrong with the horse. It's going to say, hey, send this repair material to this location, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I understood that 100%, right whenever he first told me.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I'll say in addition to that, of course, we always recommend consulting with your veterinarian and making sure that you're doing the right things from the nutritional aspect and things like that. But a lot of times, I would say more times than not, this Equinety product seems to be the missing link with a lot of mystery lameness issues and just a lot of problem areas. And I think you described it best. I mean, you're really giving the body what it needs so it can go in and find what needs to be fixed and fixes it in general layman's terms. So awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, well, Butch, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your Equinety stories. If there's anybody tuning in here that maybe they've never tried the product, maybe this is the first time hearing about it, what advice or anything would you have to tell them to maybe push them over the fence to give it a go?
Really, it's with all the products on the market today, you can spend a lot of money and not get any results. And I've tried pretty much everything new that comes on the market. We always like to give it a look, see if it's definitely going to be worth your money to try it. At least if you only have one horse, get the smaller container and try it. And don't change anything, but just add this supplement to it and to your feeding program, and just kind of keep an eye on changes. And the changes aren't real subtle. I mean, on our horses, we saw a big difference in, like I said, in about 30 days, and which is really pretty good. It's very impressive to me, because normally you don't see changes that big in that little a time. So it's definitely doing what the claims are.
Right. Absolutely. So, well, thank you again, Butch. Butch Myers out of Falling Waters, West Virginia. I sure appreciate you taking the time here on the Equinety Podcast.
Sure. Thank you for talking to me.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's all for this episode of the Equinety Podcast. For more information on purchasing Equinety, be sure to visit our website at teamequinety.com, where you'll also find product information as well as more testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horse's supplement regime. We'll have more stories on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide right here on a future episode of the Equinety Podcast.